Welcome everybody. This is Mr. Blazik. I'm going to present to you the beginning of how to research something for a research paper, because that's the next paper we're going to write. And I have good news and I have bad news for you. The bad news is if you were super excited to write an entire full-blown research paper, that's not what we're doing. It's going to be a little bit easier than that. It will have some research in it, but it will also be combined with a theme analysis paper about Ray Bradbury's Fahrenheit 451, and it will be about the theme ignorance and knowledge. So you're going to do a little outside research, you're going to use a little bit of what Ray Bradbury said, and you're going to put that all together into one well thought out final paper. And I really like doing this lesson in class to show you how to properly research things, but I put together this slideshow that hopefully helps you out even while we're distance learning. So here we go with research basics, how to find and cite credible sources when you're doing research. And the good news for you is that from now on, high school all the way through the end of your educational career, if you're asked to do research, a research paper, you'll also be given access to whatever institution you're at. Any institution has access to a database full of material, full of magazine articles, news articles, academic journals, and it has all those things computerized, easy to look up, and our high school is no different. So this is the link to the database that we have access to through Detroit Lakes High School, and you click on that link, and the password is ELM4U, and so any Detroit Lakes High School student has access to use all this information. Okay, so I've put that link in a few different places for you to click on, and that'll get you to our database. And all you have to do is type in that password. Note the red arrow is pointing out the password for you that you will use the first time you log in. So that takes you to this screen called Gale. So Gale is what we're going to call the database that we're using. And so, for example, pretend I wanted to look up texting while driving. I type that into the search bar, and this is what it shows me. And so it shows me all the results that show up when I type texting while driving. There's 326 magazine articles, 107 academic journals, 21 books, over 2,000 news articles, some images, some videos. And note that the default is magazines. So as soon as Gale returns a search, it always goes straight to magazines. And you can click on the other sources to see what kind of things they have in those. And magazines aren't always the best source for you to use. It depends on what the topic is. It depends what people usually tend to say in those types of sources. We are looking up ignorance and knowledge and the relationship between the two. Perhaps an academic journal might be your best option. And if you're not familiar with what that is, then if you click on academic journals, which the next slide will show you, those are what's written by professors. So if a university professor, has two basic jobs. One is to teach students. The other is to perform new research and get published in an academic journal. So professors take some of their time performing research of whatever they're interested in, whatever their field is, and then they compile that research, they write an article about it, they submit it to a journal. And a journal is edited by a whole panel of other professionals in that field. So a professor wrote it, other professors and professionals in that field edit it to see if it's any good and if it makes sense and if it's true, and then it gets published into the academic journal. So far and away, those are the most credible sources. If you're clicking on magazines, an article might only have had to pass one editor to make it into a magazine. Similar with a newspaper. So an author wrote a newspaper article, they submit it to their editor, and that editor gets it put into the newspaper. And sometimes an editor-in-chief will go through the whole thing and take out anything that they disagree with, so might have to pass two editors, but an academic journal has to pass a whole panel of people who are also experts in that field. All right, so we're looking for credible sources. If you click on academic journals, an academic journal exists in pretty much every area of study. If there's something that you are interested in, I bet there's some professors somewhere who have studied that thing, and there may be a journal that already talks about it. So I clicked on, I looked through the titles of the articles about texting while driving, and I found one that I liked. Do enforced texting bans prevent hospitalizations related to car crashes? So this researcher, Marianne Friedman, decided to look at the relationship between banning texting and hospitalizations. So, okay, that's interesting. So you can read through the article. It's got it there for you. And then I'm about to show you the coolest part of using this Gale search engine. So if you scroll down to the bottom of this article, what you're going to see is this, the source citation. MLA formatted source citation, all ready to go. All you have to do is copy it and paste it to your works cited page, and you're done. Now, you may not understand what that means. If you're searching on regular old Google and you find a source that you want to use and put in your paper, it's your job to find the proper MLA citation. And a lot of people say, yeah, that's easy. I put it in EasyBib. And I'm here to tell you that I've never seen EasyBib properly cite something the first time. And it's not as easy as it sounds, and it very seldomly gets it exactly right. And most websites are like that. So your job is to put a proper citation together, and if you use the Gale database, it does it for you automatically. So that's one of the great things about using it. Okay, here's another option for you that not everybody is aware of. So Google has a different branch called Google Scholar. So if you go to Google, type Google Scholar, it'll take you to this website that limits itself to scholarly literature, only academic sources. So that's similar to Gale. You can find academic journals. You can find other things that people have published, usually from universities and things like that. It's generally more credible information than you'll find on the regular Google site. Now, some of you might be asking yourselves, can't I just use regular Google? Am I allowed to just Google information? Am I allowed to just Google ignorance and knowledge? Absolutely, you can. However, Google searches the entire internet. We're talking everyone's blog, everyone's opinion, editorials. Sure, there's going to be stuff from newspapers and magazines and academic journals, but there's also stuff from everything else. Anything anybody's written on the internet can appear on Google. So yeah, it's a wealth of information, but then it's your job as the researcher to sift through that information and decide what's credible. So I typed in texting while driving onto Google, and there's some great stuff from different news outlets. But then there's some opinions from some guy named Tim in his blog that he wrote. He's not an authority. He's not an expert. I'm sorry. Tim, I appreciate your opinion, whoever you are, but you're not a credible source that I can use in a research paper. And so you as the researcher have to be careful with what you find on regular Google, and you have to sift through it and make sure that it makes sense, that it's a credible source that you can put in a research paper. So back to Gale. I would like you to do a little research on what's called the Dunning-Kruger effect. This is the beginning of your outside research into ignorance and knowledge. And what that is, the Dunning-Kruger effect, click on images when you Google that or when you look that up, because it's really interesting how the people who know the least about something often feel the most confident that their ability is great. So sometimes the dumbest people will think that they're really smart. Or the people who like the first time I took my kid fishing, he thinks he knows everything about fishing now because he caught one fish. Or I have a first grader at home, and he thinks he's pretty good at math. He told me he knows that 3 times 3 is 9. I said, congratulations, buddy. And now he thinks he's done studying math. That's it. He has reached the peak. Nope, you know so little. You don't even know what you don't know. And that's the Dunning-Kruger effect. The people who know the least have no idea what they don't even know. And their confidence soars because they just learned something. And that is where I want you to start looking for the difference between ignorance and knowledge. Because as Ray Bradbury might tell you, if we don't know what we don't know, that hurts us. We don't even know that we should be seeking out more knowledge. Okay, so we're going to write about the relationship between those two things, and the Dunning-Kruger effect might help you begin your search. So I typed that into Gale, and I looked through some of the sources, and I found an article that I liked. It's called What If We're Wrong? This one's by Gwen Moritz. And I read through this article, and it made some really good points. So say I wanted to put that in my research paper. By the way, you're more than welcome to use this source if you want to. It's a pretty good article. But you read through, and your job is to find 2 outside sources about ignorance and knowledge that you might put in your paper. So, What If We're Wrong by Gwen Moritz. I took the MLA source citation, and I put it right here. And I wanted to point out the 6 things that you are responsible for finding if you don't use Gale. So if you don't use a database that puts all that information in there for you, if you use regular Google and find something, great. But you are responsible for putting these 6 things in this specific order in this way. You need the author of the article. You need the title of the article. You need the publication. In this case, this one was published in something called Arkansas Business. You need the date of publication. This one was published in June 2016. You need the URL where you found it, and you need the date you accessed it. All that information goes exactly in that order into your source citation on your Works Cited page. So here's one clue to determine if what you're finding is credible. If it's missing any of those things, if someone wrote an article, quote unquote, but they didn't want to put their name on it, there's no author, that's one red flag. Maybe this information isn't as credible as I thought. There are exceptions to that rule. Certain things that get published on, for example, government websites or certain other organizations, they don't automatically list an author if it's just informational. So, but it is a red flag. So if you're finding something and it doesn't have an author, or you can't tell who wrote it, then maybe it's not as credible as you thought. If it doesn't have a title, if it doesn't have a publication, you don't know where it was originally published, maybe it's not as credible. But if anything you find and want to put in your paper, you have to be able to hopefully find all 6 pieces of information. That's what goes into a source citation. Your job in the assignment is to find 2 things, 2 different sources that you want to put in your paper. So you are more than welcome to copy and paste anything, a whole paragraph, multiple paragraphs, into that first box that says interesting ideas from the article. Just take what you like from the article, put it in that box. Then in the right-hand column, where it says MLA source citation, your job is to create what we just saw on the previous screen. You got to create this. All 6 of those pieces of information in that order goes right there. If you're using Gale, this is going to be super easy. You take what you want from the article, copy and paste it into the first box. Take the source citation at the bottom, copy and paste it into the second box. Do that for 2 articles and you're done. So get out there, find some research on ignorance and knowledge, and the relationship between the two. When does ignorance turn into knowledge? When do we gain knowledge? Is knowledge possible to gain without first admitting ignorance? Those are the kinds of things I want you to start investigating on your own. And then the rest of this week, we're going to spend some time looking at what Ray Bradbury said about ignorance and knowledge. And then we're going to put all that together into our final paper. Okay, good luck. Let me know if you have any questions, and happy researching. Thanks for listening.